if you have two different groups of people who say there is one God who is the source of all reality, infinite, uncreated, eternal, transcendent of time, source and end of all things, then you're both talking about the same truth. Now, the Christian will then go on to say, and Jesus of Nazareth is the incarnate Son of God, but it's not as if the prior claim being made by, say, a pagan is wrong. He too is telling, say, within the range of knowledge he possesses, stating exactly the same truth that the Christian is. So, if we think of God as a being, so that it's either the God of the Christians or Zeus,
right.
Then we've already made a category error. Every time human reason comes to the same conclusion, that everything that possesses conditional existence rests upon the foundation of an eternal, transcendent God, it's arriving at a real conclusion about the true God.
Would you say that in a text like Acts 17, for example, where Paul is really stressing this, what you've talked about earlier, this creator-creature distinction, from there he moves on to say, this God is not, he's emphasizing the attribute of what we would call satiety, saying this God is not served by human hands. He uses all this language.
Right, and in doing that, he would be saying something that a philosophical pagan at the time would have agreed with over against the local cult. Well, all societies tend to start with pictures of God as a local God, one God among others. Even ancient Hebrew and Canaanite religion begins with this, and a God who requires certain things. That's normal enough. Within the history, though, of these civilizations, there tends to come a point where a class, a philosophical class, if you will, a metaphysical class, a mystical class, whatever, begins to have the apprehension that there is a transcendent source, a unified, the one from whom all things come, and they stop thinking of their religion in terms of local deities to be served, and instead search for the one God from whom all things come. By the time you get to late antiquity, this is, in the greater world of the time, many pagan thinkers were on the same, would have agreed with the Jews. In fact, the Jews were greatly admired in many parts of the Eastern and even Western Empire, precisely because of the extreme fidelity of developed Judaism to the mystery of the one God who is above all things. And so, in a sense, Paul is speaking, when he's speaking to the Athenians, he's telling them something that will make sense to the educated among them and even just to the pious among them. There are those who would say, yes, okay, the true God, the one, Theos, isn't going to appear in images or be served by human hands.
Mm-hmm.
So already within those societies, there's a division between just fidelity to small local cultic observances and a religious desire for the truly transcendent God. And it's that truly transcendent God that Paul is not only preaching to the Athenians, but believes it's been revealed in Christ. So to make these, I think it's always, dangerous for Christians to imagine that the difference between the Christian God, as though he's this specific individual who differs from another specific individual who might be the God of the Athenian, is already to have made the same sort of category mistake that someone like Richard Dawkins makes. Rather, what Paul is saying is, as he says in Romans chapter 1, in fact, is that all peoples have some apprehension of this reality of the one God who's not just a being among beings, a Zeus or a Wotan or an Indra, and that this being the common testimony of human reason and devotion in search of God, the true God has revealed himself in Christ in this in a unique and unsurpassable way. That's how he makes his appeal to the nations. He doesn't come striding into a world and say, all of your religious apprehensions are false, all of your metaphysical and your philosophical beliefs are false. Quite the contrary. He affirms their highest and most elevated philosophical ideas, and says that he can clarify them yet further through the story he has to tell.
When we get to, we're talking a lot about Acts 17 and Paul. Do you think, when you look at, say, someone like Isaiah, you think of Isaiah 40 through 55, that middle section there, when Isaiah starts to contrast, when he starts to contrast Yahweh with these idols, and there's a certain comical aspect to those chapters, right, where he's pointing out, you make these with your own hands. These are, you use the language of contingent.
That's a good example of what I mean, is that you see there that what's emerging, what Isaiah is talking about, is a realization of the difference between God in the truly transcendent sense and local cultic observances.
The local cultic.
But remember, if you go back far enough in time, those Canaanite and those Israelitic observances are pretty much the same. This is an emerging recognition. You'll find, and I will point out, you will find even pagan sources. Remember, Xenophanes among the Greeks saying, look, the true God is infinite being and mind. He's not something that you can capture in an idol, an image. So, and that's 4 centuries before Christ. So it's not unique to Christianity to recognize this difference. The question is, how much do you know about the difference? How much has been revealed? When Isaiah is making his distinction, he is, in a sense, paying. There you get a wonderful, the Deutero-Isaiah. You're getting there a clear indication of how Israel more and more began to realize the difference between worship of God and sort of local